So thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for all the work you're doing here. It's been such a pleasure just to see what incredible things you're doing. So I'm honored to be here with all these esteemed community members and leaders. As it says here, I'm the vice principal at East Palo Alto Academy. So it's my greatest joy to be able to work with Mr. Wong and Mr. Eng and all the wonderful students here. I'm also a children's book author. So my first book was published in January, and it hit the New York Times bestseller list the first week it was released. So it's been really like a whole other separate journey that's happening outside of school. So I'm really excited to be here to just speak about, I think, Asian history. I think what I have to share is a lot related to what Mr. Mr. Wong talked about. So I'm going to share my slides with you. And it's also a journey, I think, in light of particularly what's been happening around the country, a lot of anti-Asian racism that has always been present. But sadly, it takes, honestly, just mass murder for people to sit up and listen to the voices who have been yelling and fighting, I think, against racism and fighting for solidarity. And I thought a lot about what to share today, because sometimes, reading a children's book feels like, what's a book going to do? But then I also remember that's why I write books, because in some ways it's a way for me to share thoughts, to have a voice in the world. It's a form of activism for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a little bit about why I wrote the book I wrote, and then I'm going to read a little bit about the book, and then share some secrets that are sort of hidden in the pages of the book that might hopefully bring us to a greater message that I'll share more about. So I'm going to share my screen, and much like Mr. Wong, I'm going to show you a picture of myself when I was little. So when I was little, this is what I look like. I wanted to be a teacher because I thought teachers got a lot of presents during the holidays, because that's what happened in elementary school. That is not really what happens in high school, but I'm really glad. I am glad. Although, Cynthia, you are making me wonder, maybe I should be teaching younger grades, because it's been such a joy to hear you participate today. But when I was little, there weren't as many movies or things available for me to watch. So it was mostly Disney and like a couple shows on Saturday morning. And the characters that I watched looked a lot like this. And they had really big eyes and white skin, and most of them have very light hair. And the characters I would read about in books had beautiful girls, were always described as having golden hair and like huge blue eyes with long lashes. And as you saw, this is what I look like in first grade. I didn't look like any of those things. And on top of that, when I was in school, this is me in middle school, 7th grade, people used to pull their eyes up, and they still do things like this. You see pictures online. It happens still today. They pull their eyes up and they would say, ching chong, wing wong, because they thought they were making fun of the way they thought Chinese sounded. Cynthia, do you have a question?
So there was a live stream about a man who actually did that, and there was thousands of people watching him do that. And I did not like what he did on that live stream.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a teacher in Sacramento who did the same thing and talked to her class about, like, if eyes go up, they're this, and if eyes go down, they're this. And so it's something that's really common and prevalent. It's something that would make me feel really bad about who I was, what I look like. And for a really long time, I thought I can't be beautiful in this world because I don't look like any of those. I don't see anyone who looks like me as a model of someone who's beautiful. I used to look in the mirror and I would pull up my eyelids like this, and I would try to imagine myself with bigger eyes and long lashes. It was like a joke in my family. Even though everyone else's eyes shaped like mine, it was like, it really, I feel like it affected me really deeply. So I like to show this picture because this is what I would look like if I had eyes the size of a Disney princess. I would look kind of like an alien or a bug. Because some of those standards of beauty that we look at in the cartoons or what we see in the movies or what we read about in books are just not realistic. They're not real. But also in light, you know, to be super honest, like these standards of beauty are very much based in a long history of oppression. So people would say if you have they would make cartoons of Asian eyes and draw them a certain way and use it as a way to justify making unfair laws against Asian people. Similarly, they would make a lot of things about people with dark skin or a certain type of hair, or even now like body size, but there's a long history of why we have one standard of beauty. It's because all the other ways that people look have been used to justify oppression, or in other words, make it seem like it's okay to treat people differently or unjustly or unfairly. So this book is about this. So I'm curious if anybody here knows what they think the word revolution means. Cynthia, I'm kind of looking at you if you feel like you want to share.
I'm trying to think. I've heard that word, but I'm just trying to think about what it means.
Yeah, do you have any ideas? Where do you think you heard that word?
I feel like I heard it in like some people talking or in books or when my teacher is like talking to us, but I just don't really know what it means that much.
Hey, that's okay. Does anyone else want to share? What do you think, or when you think of revolution, what does it mean to you? Open to anyone. Mr. Wong.
When I think of revolution, I think of something turning around, or maybe kind of like reversing or changing.
I love that. Does anyone else have thoughts? Thanks, Mr. Wong. So reversing, changing, turning around is what I've heard so far. Any other thoughts?
So it reminds me, get the word revolt out of it, to fight back, to want something different, and to go against the grain, go against whatever is wrong.
I love that. Go against the grain, go against what's wrong, fight back. Cynthia.
Miss Sonia said that she thinks that it's a positive change. She wrote that in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thanks. Thank you for being our moderator and our best participant. You're basically the superstar of all things, Cynthia. Thank you. I love all these definitions. So I love this idea of creating a change. I think what you said, Cynthia, is people who are fighting the revolution think they're fighting to make it better. The stories we hear kind of depend on who wins the battle, but a revolution doesn't have to be violent. It sometimes is something that happens internally. You're fighting or you're changing, but it's something about creating change, changing the way things are, changing things for the better, hopefully. Cynthia.
Ty said that he thinks that revolution, I think, means to fight back, to fight for rights, and not look like your hands.
No, I meant to say not with your hands, like giving speeches like Martin Luther King Jr.
Is what you're saying, like not necessarily fighting like this, but just like activism and fighting and
yeah, using your words.
Yeah, using words. Love that. Thank you all for sharing. So what I would love for you to do now is to think of a motion. I know we can't all see you, but if you want to share a motion you can do to remind us of the meanings of this word. So just to recap, it could be fighting for rights, an internal change, changing something for the better, a revolt. Okay, so one motion that looks like that. What's a motion you could do that means revolution? Okay, I see Mr. Wong doing this. Anyone else? Cynthia or Ty? Christian, I see you. Okay, so the reason I'm asking is because when I read you my story, you're gonna see this word one time, and then I'm gonna ask you what you think it means. Okay, so here we go. So first I want you to notice a couple things. I'm actually gonna sort of mix it up. So Actually, I'll read you the story first, and then I'll share you some of the secrets. So this is Eyes That Kiss in the Corners by Joanna Ho, illustrated by Zoom Ho. She is an artist who is from Vietnam. We're not related. I know that's a common question. I just feel really honored to share the same name, but she's Vietnamese from Vietnam. Okay, so it's published by HarperCollins. Some people have eyes like sapphire lagoons with lashes like lace trim on ball gowns, sweeping their cheeks as they twirl. Big eyes, long lashes. Not me. I have eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea. My eyes are just like Mama's. Mama's eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea crinkle into crescent moons when she comes home from work. She scoops me in her arms, eyes sparkling like starlight, and tickles me until we laugh ourselves onto the floor. When Mama tucks me in at night, her eyes tell me I'm a miracle. In those moments when she's all mine, flecks of dancing gold tell me I'm hers too. My mama is my sun and sky, and her eyes are just like Ama's. Ama's eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea don't work like they used to, but she sees all the way into my heart and can even read my mind. Her eyes are filled with so many stories I can fall inside them and swim until time stops. I see Guanyin with the monkey king sitting on a lotus serene, baubles of lychee on trees and mountains that reach for the sea. My Ama never ages and her eyes are just like Mei's. Mei's eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea blink against the window until I come home from school. They disappear beneath her tutu smile when I walk in the door. She toddles after me, gazing up at me like I am her best present. I hope she looks at me like that forever, because when she looks at me in that Mei way, I feel like I can fly. Mei's eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea are just like mine. My eyes crinkle into crescent moons and sparkle like the stars. Gold flecks dance and twirl while stories whirl in their oolong pools, carrying tales of the past and hope for the future. My eyes find mountains that rise ahead and look up when others shut down. My lashes curve like the swords of warriors, and through them I see kingdoms in the clouds. My eyes that kiss in the corner, glow like warm tea, are a revolution. Anyone making a motion? They are Mama and Ama and Mei. They are me and they are beautiful. Okay, so notice here, I'm going to quickly share a couple secrets in here, but I want to focus on this word revolution. So look at this yellow color of this paper, of these flowers. I thought that the artist drew them yellow because she somehow like ESP'd and figured out that my favorite color was yellow. That is not true. The yellow color of those flowers are based on this dress. So this is the actress Constance Wu. She wore this dress to the premiere of the movie Crazy Rich Asians, which is the first movie in 25 years that had an all Asian cast. That means in my whole life, because I was born in 1901, like Mr. Wong, there have been 2 movies, like Hollywood movies, that have had an entirely Asian cast because and this was the second one, and it just came out a couple of years ago. So we talked a little bit about eyes, but another way that people really sort of put down Asian people is by using the term yellow. So if you've ever heard the word yellow peril, that was a term that was really common because people didn't want Asian people to come to the United States. So they would say they're dangerous, they're dirty, they have diseases, they're taking our jobs, like all kinds of things. They're not human, they're animals. And Constance Wu wore this yellow dress to sort of take that all back. Yellow is beautiful, yellow is powerful. All of these ways you've tried to oppress and put me down, make me feel bad about who I am and where I come from. Like, I'm not having any of that. Like this, I'm reclaiming this for myself. So that's where that's where the color of this yellow comes from. And you see all the flowers are clothed here. I'm going to skip ahead. If you notice what she's painting with her mom, and then I'll point out just a couple more things. One is here. I love this detail. If you look on the wall, you see the Chinese symbol for Fu. That means blessing, but it's upside down. And the reason it's upside down is because the Chinese word, the Mandarin word for bless or for upside down is Dao. And the Mandarin word for here is Dao. So you should say that again. Upside down is Dao, and here is Dao. So it sounds really similar. So that belief is if you turn it Dao, if you make it upside down, then it's going to be here. So if you put the blessings upside down, that means blessings are here in my home. So you might see a home that has the symbol for happiness and it'll be upside down. And that's why it's like that. Oh, sorry. Those are my kids. The characters in this book are based a lot on my kids and my family. So notice, remember at the beginning, she was painting a field of flowers with her mom. And here she's standing in a real field of flowers. So the things that she imagined are now real. And similarly, the symbol of the phoenix here, a lot in Western culture too, it's sort of a symbol of rebirth, but it's also typically a female character. So here you see, this is when she's coming into her power. She's got this phoenix behind her, but look at the phoenix feathers over here. Do you see them in the flowers here? So there's a lot of symbolism between, we talked about revolution can be a fight. It can also be something internal. But it's also about her realizing not only is she beautiful and her family and her history is incredible and powerful, who she is and where she comes from, but also that she has this power to reimagine the world and create change in the world, just like all of you have that same power. And so that's my family. My ama on the right is, she was from Taiwan. She only spoke Taiwanese and Japanese, because she lived in Taiwan when it was occupied by Japan. And I only speak English. I was born here in Mandarin, so we couldn't talk to each other. And she was also blind, so she couldn't see me, but I felt so connected to her. These are my kids and my stepdad and my mom. And so a lot of the relationships are based on the relationships that I have with people in my family. But notice the flowers here. So they are open now, they're blooming, and there's butterflies. So my question for you is, the last one is the one I really am interested in, is what do you think it means when she says her eyes are a revolution?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
In one of the pages, I noticed there was like a girl and she was riding a black horse. And it had a background. It kind of reminded me of Mulan. Was that her?
Sure is. Great observation. So that's Mulan. And then if you've seen the movie Over the Moon on Netflix, I'm so grateful for all this representation, because I didn't know that much about Chang'e. And my kids now, when they saw my book, because they saw the movies first, they're like, oh, that's Chang'e, blah, blah, blah. But that's the lady who lives on the moon with her jade rabbit. And the one in the front, the swallows, the belief in Chinese culture is if a swallow nests under your home, you have a really happy home. It's a great observation, Tai. Any thoughts? What do you think it means when she says her eyes are a revolution? Mr. Wong, is your hand still up, or is that from before? Brave souls, anyone?
So I think what she said in the book, maybe because all her family members have the same eyes as her, and maybe that's why she said that, but I'm not sure. And maybe because there's a lot of people in the world who have those type of eyes, not trying to offend anyone.
Too cute.
But I think that's why.
Yeah, it's true. There's like a billion people. I'm totally getting the number wrong, but there are a lot of people in the world with eyes that kiss in the corners. Does anyone else want to share what they think?
Can I do a stretch? Because I see the butterfly, and the butterfly is represented, it comes from the caterpillar that kind of crawls, and it's kind of not as beautiful, but when you transform into that butterfly, it's a beautiful creature and who you're meant to be. It's about change and changing into who you are. That's what I see.
I love that. Like there's a process of transformation that happens.
Yes.
The butterflies are here. They weren't in the first pages. So I love that you noticed those. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? The English teacher here is like, yeah, discussion. Okay, going once, I love that. So I feel like what I just want to close with is, this is for sure a story that I wrote. It's a really personal story. But I think the idea here for me is less about physical beauty and more about revolution. That there are standards in the world and systems in the world that make many of us feel like there is one normal, and that normal is white, and that's the standard. And there's a reason, then there's power structures and there's an architecture that is in the world to continue to make people believe and uphold those systems. And I think my greatest desire is for people not just to read this book, any book, children's books, all books, but to really be able to step into your power and know that you personally are a revolution, but that together, especially together in solidarity between different, I mean, I love just who's here in this group right here. There's a beautiful representation of what solidarity can be and what it can look like, and that we each have the power to create change in this world that really needs change. And I mean, just being here with all of you today and seeing the like energy and the passion and the organization and efforts of young people gives me so much hope in the future. But that's what I would love to leave you with today. You know, Asian culture, Asian activism is really, it's all part of a much larger picture of solidarity. I hope it can be. That's what I would say, is it can be. It has been historically, and it can be, and it should continue to be, so that we can continue to fight for this world that is more equitable and liberatory for all of us. That's it. Thank you all.
Thank you. One question that I do have is, how can young kids, how can they help support this movement of anti-Asian racism?
I would love to hear what other people think about that question. What do you all think?
I'm gonna put you on the spot, but Brianna, Natalie, Esme, people who are that I know more specifically. Also, oh, hi Mele, I didn't see you that you were here, but anyone, but just calling out my team to see what ideas you guys have on how younger students can help kind of fight this anti-racism, this racism toward.
In my opinion, I feel like everyone could, just accept everyone for who they are and for how they look like on the outside, because we're all different in our own ways, inside and out. And I feel like just, being friends with everyone, and, we don't really know everyone to the fullest, so I feel like when we do meet someone new, or just even if we know someone already, just be nice to everyone as much as you can.
Thanks, Brianna. Cynthia, I see your hand. Cynthia, did you want to share?
So you know how people usually say, treat others how you want to be treated? And I feel like that's how people should be treated, because there's a lot of people who are like making fun of this person, and I think the person who's making fun of them will not want to would not like that person to make fun of them. And that's why I really think that all people should be treated the same, because I don't really like how people are being treated now.
Thanks for sharing, Cynthia. Does anyone else have a final thought you want to share?
Are you going to be making other books?
Yeah, I am. Actually, I have one coming out in September. Another one, there is a boy version. So there is I don't want to say boy version. There is a version that has a young boy and his male family members coming out. And it's about a boy who's being bullied for his eyes, and that comes out next year. I have a novel coming out next year. There's quite a few over the next few years. Most of them are picture books, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. But Christian, just to answer your question, I think I agree with everything that's been shared. And I think that just becoming more aware and becoming more educated, listening to Asian educators and voices, and learning more Asian American history, because we don't frankly learn enough of that in school. Even here at APAA, I think we try hard to create a really culturally affirming curriculum, but Asians, for a lot of different reasons that we don't have time to go into today, but have been really invisible, and we as Asian people need to, I feel like, step up and take up more space and push the conversation. But I think what other people can do is just learn and learn, and I think continue to work together in solidarity, because ultimately we're all working for the same thing.
And may I add one thing that I would also add to that is that when you're in school, look for those individuals who are sitting by themselves and be more inclusive. Like, get out of your circle and include others so that they'll feel welcome and included there. And I think it'll be different. Once we learn from each other and learn our differences, we're much better together than we are apart. And we should celebrate those things that are different about us, but don't let someone be bullied on your campus. Watch it and keep walking. Stop the bullying and be inclusive.
I love that. Thank you.
Cynthia, did you have something you wanted to say?
I really love what Miss Lisa said about how whenever there's bullying in your school, you should stop it. And whenever I see bullying, like in my school, I usually go try to stop it. But there's a lot of people in that bullying group that say, oh, it's none of your business, or like, you have to leave because it's our problem. But I really want to help, and they just don't want to.
Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing that. And sometimes it takes that one person to say, then I will go with the person who's bullying and just be their friend so they're not alone. Because there's a lot of group think. People do things together just because the group's doing it. Doesn't mean that's the right thing. And it takes a brave person to stand against that. So thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Lisa, Miss Lisa. Were you going to say something, Miss Ho?
No, I didn't realize my mic was on. Sorry.